Well, hello everyone, and welcome to today's Hot Topic webinar, which is the second in our Sharing the Vision series, the double whammy of ageism and ableism. We're so pleased that you're joining us today, and as you can see, we are on our new webinar platform, Zoom. So welcome, and please bear with us. We are learning. We're very excited about what this platform is going to be able to provide to both our guides and to our attendees. As you can see, you can put a face to a name now, so that's very exciting. We also have the abilities that we have had on prior webinars to chat. And so there is a chat box there. If you have any comments or a question, however you want to use it, you can put it into the chat box, and those will be looked at and reviewed most likely at the end of the webinar. There's also a Q&A, so you're welcome to use that, and we will acknowledge those as well. So that said, I think that's all the work that we need to do. So I'm going to turn it over to our guide, Mel Coppola, and Mel, off you go.
Off I go. I just started. Wait a minute. Hey, everybody. I'm so happy to be here with you today. I know there's a lot more people actually signing on as we speak, so they'll catch up with us. But I just want to say I am an educator and a mentor with the Eden Alternative, and that was actually, I'm going to take my glasses off for a minute, my first introduction to ageism through the Eden Alternative, a webinar that Dr. Bill and Jude Thomas did back in 2012. And then through Eden at Home training, Eden at Home associate training actually, not only was that introduction deepened for me, but I also learned about ageism. And I learned about what Laura Beck, my dear friend from the Eden Home office, labeled as the double whammy. And that's what we're going to talk about today, okay? So hopefully many of you were also part of the first webinar in this series, which took place, I think it was in February. And Penny took us on a journey that showed how ageism disconnects us. And it creates an us and a them mindset. Even if you weren't on that webinar, you've likely heard some buzz, I'm sure you have, about the concept of ageism and really how destructive it is. Just like racism or sexism or any other ism that's designed to diminish people. So today, we're going to talk some more about ageism. And we're going to take a good look at ableism, okay, and the double whammy they create for the elders we support. So let's get started. Joan, if you could share the slide with our definition of ageism. Okay, so you can see that ageism is a prejudice or a discrimination against a particular age group, especially the elderly. And that's what we're going to focus on today. Of course, ageism goes back and forth, but for our purposes, we're going to focus on the prejudice against old people. Okay? And the term ageism was actually coined in 1969 by Dr. Robert Butler. And in 1975, he also said this, and I think this is pretty powerful. He said, ageism allows younger generations to see old people as different than themselves. Thus, they subtly cease to identify with their elders as human beings. I'm just going to say that again because I think it's so powerful. They subtly cease to identify with their elders as human beings. And you know, part of the reason that ageism exists is because of the assumptions and the judgments we often make about people who are old. And let me just say this right up front. When I say we, I don't mean we in this Zoom meeting room. I mean the greater we, society, okay? I know I'm preaching to the choir, but really, part of the reason that ageism exists is because of the assumptions and judgments society often makes about people who are old. So let's look at some, if we could do the next slide, Joan. Let's think about these assumptions and judgments. As you see these photos, just sit with whatever thoughts come into your mind, okay? Just hold on to these thoughts, the feelings that come up as we take a look at ageism. Yeah, just sit with that for a moment. Okay, so let's think about ableism now. Let's share the definition of ableism. Hold these thoughts that you just had in your head, and let's think about ableism, which is the prejudice against people based on different physical or cognitive abilities. Okay, you know, the Americans with Disabilities Act, which was passed back in 1990, and that's a civil rights law, and it prohibits discrimination against individuals with disabilities in all areas of public life. And that includes jobs, schools, transportation, and all public and private places that are open to the general public. We've come a long way for sure in how we treat people who are living with different abilities. And yet, when it comes to old people living with them, we can sometimes fall short. So let's take a look at that next slide. And again, just what comes to your mind? What thoughts does this evoke? What feelings? How do you see these people? What assumptions do we have? How about that next slide, Joan? You know, not every disability is like what we just saw. Some disabilities or different abilities are invisible, aren't they? And we know dementia, mental illness, these are disabilities no one can see, but we sure do make assumptions, don't we? Don't we? So what assumptions and judgments do we make about people who are living with dementia? People who live with mental illness? You know, these assumptions, these judgments we make, they put people in a box. So when you think of old people, I want you to use your chat box, if you could, please. I want you to think of what feelings came up for you before when you saw the photos of the old people. What feelings, what things do you hear? What things do you see? What's in the media? What's in the movies? What's in the television? What do we hear or see on billboards? What do we read in greeting cards? What's the message that you know and you hear every single day about old people? Just put them in the chat box. Don't hold back, just put them in there. You may not say these things, you may not hear, well, you may not think these things, but I'll bet you hear them and I'll bet you see them. Just go ahead, please. Everybody just put some stuff in there. Yeah, I'm seeing some good stuff come in. A life story, and that's a great one. I'm glad somebody has that. But no value in society, definitely. Old people are dependent. Yeah. What else do you hear? What else, you know, what might the direct care staff, those care partners, what might they have been told all their lives? Maybe that old people have dementia, right? It goes hand in hand. Maybe they're dependent. No value again. Yeah. These things that we hear, those cards that we read tell us that old age is about failure, decline, that they can't drive well, they don't want to do anything anymore. They thought they thought I would be like this. I always see myself as young and could do anything. Why didn't you tell me I would look like this? Oh my gosh, yes. They can't hear. Sure. They can't drive, they can't hear, they're not valuable. These are the messages that hit us day in, day out. And guess what, folks? These have been hitting all of us since we were kids. These are in movies that kids watch and toddlers. Yeah, thank you. Can't hear. Ugly wrinkles. Yeah, they're all over my face too. This is what we're fed, okay? This is what we hear. This is what we see. And I want you to do, they're unable to take care of themselves. Yeah, thank you. So I want us to do the same thing now and think about people who are living with disabilities. Of course, it would be politically correct if I said with different abilities, but you get my point. What do we hear about people who maybe are living with dementia? What are the, we call out about things that they do because they're communicating things to us, but what does society tell us about people living with different abilities? Whether they're in wheelchairs or they use walkers, they're scary. Yeah. What other things do we hear? They're invisible. Oh my gosh, yes. And again, although the ADA has done great work, when it comes to old people, they are invisible. And yeah, that they're faking it. Another great one that we hear. Yeah, they're not really. She's making it up. They're slow. They're too slow to get moving. Yeah. And we pity them. Oh gosh, don't we though, right? Isn't that the worst part, is the pity? So hearing all of that, I mean, my gosh, all the things you just said, if we go to, thank you, Joan. So they can't hear, they have ugly wrinkles. Why didn't you tell me I would look like this? They don't want to do anything anymore. They can't drive well. They probably have dementia. They're dependent on others. They have no value. They're faking it. They're slow. We pity them. Everything you've just heard, this is the double whammy. How must it feel? How must that feel to be an old person? Right?
Mel, you froze up on us and we're not hearing you. Let's hope we get you back.
Sorry. Am I back?
You're coming back.
Okay. Tell me when I'm back.
I can hear you now.
Okay, so sorry for that. It must be the cold I had all week. So I'm not sure where I was, but wow. What does that feel like day after day, getting all these messages coming at us, really bombarding us, right? What does it do? I know what it does to me. I know what it has done to me in the past. People begin to think that they're undeserving of anything more. I remember my aunt, when she was still alive, saying to me, honey, that's just what it is. And that's what people think. That's just what it is. And these assumptions can lead us away from what we, the people here in this room, really want to achieve, which is person-directed care, right? So what happens when these assumptions, become real, okay? When we fail to see people as humans and see them only as that stereotype, that sets an environment where care truly becomes task focused. This is ableism and ageism at work, guys. How about the next one? What assumptions and judgments can result in? How about segregated dining? So when people who don't want or use wheelchairs and walkers have to use a separate dining, don't have to see those assistive devices because, oh my gosh, don't see it. That's ageism at work. Or maybe someone that needs assistance with their meals. Maybe they have to use a separate dining room. ableism. Or people living with dementia, they have their own dining room, and this is ableism, guys. How about the next one? When one size fits all activity calendar, that's ageism. When people living with dementia, they have separate activity calendars because, hello, they might not understand the exercise or the activity, or maybe they'll do it wrong. Right? That's ableism. And you, whoever wrote it, results in a one-size-fits-all mentality. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Yes, thank you for that. How about our next one, Joan? Okay, and I know everything we've done, and we've done it with love, but when we put people behind locked doors because of their cognitive differences, that's ableism. Front and center, that's ableism. Okay. Another thing, go ahead with the next one, please, Joan.
Mel, you're frozen up on us again. We'll give you a minute to unfreeze.
Well, I am just so sorry, guys. Tell me when I'm back, Joan.
I think you're back again. You came back quicker this time.
Gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm not really sure why. But anyway, let's go back to that. Yeah, thank you. Perfect. Okay, so these internalized messages will cause people to isolate themselves, which leads, of course, to loneliness. Or maybe they'll think because of these internalized messages that they don't have anything to offer, and that leads to helplessness. And all of this can certainly lead to boredom, can't it? And this is the very foundation, the first principle of the Eden alternative, that these plagues, loneliness, helplessness, boredom, are the cause of our elders' decline. And it all comes from ageism and ableism, and we can do something about it. That's the whole thing. That's the wonderful thing. So let's look at the next one. I really want to say that I know, again, that I'm preaching to the choir, okay? And everything we've talked about today is meant to be an awakening, okay? It's not to say we're bad people. We did what we knew, and we did it with love. Everything we still do, we do with love. But Maya Angelou told us, I did then what I knew how to do. Now that I know better, I do better. And that's what we need to do. We need humility, and we need to forgive ourselves. And then we need to move forward, okay? Once you're made aware and you see something like this, you can't unsee it. And you have an obligation to do better, okay? And to teach others to do the same. Okay, so let's go to our next one. So person-directed living, hello, this is the antidote to ageism and ableism. Everything that we aspire to and our goal is toward is the antidote, okay? So through the values of person-directed living, we can help end ageism and ableism where we work and where we live, okay? Let's look at those values we have there: to know people deeply, not just who they were. Obviously, that's very important, but who they are right now, okay? And honor them for both parts of that identity. To be in relationship, okay, with the elder care partners we support, as well as with all the members of the care partner team, okay? You can't have a collaborative, empowered care partner team unless you're in relationship with each other, with each member. How about building on strengths? What works now, okay? When we build on people's current strengths, we really help empower all members of the care partner team, including first and foremost, of course, our elder care partner. You know, if they are not able to do this, let's help them to do this by breaking it down into smaller parts so that they can participate and build on their strength, okay? Understand the joy that saying you're welcome brings, okay? Often the elder care partners say thank you over and over and over, because we are constantly giving care, okay? But when we make that care a two-way street, it gives the elder care partner an opportunity and the joy of saying, you're welcome, instead of only being able to say thank you, okay? And then focus on well-being, okay? This shifts our focus from the medical model to a more whole person approach. And of course, I, being an Eden educator and mentor, I use the 7 Eden alternative domains of well-being. And those are identity, connectedness, security, autonomy, meaning, growth, and joy. When we focus on enhancing these domains for all members of the care partner team, their otherness, what sets them apart, falls away. And we just see the humanity in our care partner. Okay. Is Joan? There we go. So I would invite anyone, and I'm sorry if I was disappearing on you. Must be the cold I had, I don't know. But I would love to have discussion and invite people to unmute. Is that okay with you, Joan?
I was going to say, yes, and if we have this set up right, then you should be able to unmute yourself and join in the conversation.
Now, I know you guys have something to say.
And you can also put it in the chat box if you're feeling shy today.
There you go. We have a lot of shy people. I can take my glasses off. So I'm curious how many of you have, yeah.
Marianne asked if you could repeat the 7 Eden principles, actually the domains of well-being.
I would be happy to. They are identity, connectedness, security, autonomy, growth, meaning, and joy. And they are, of course, on the Eden Alternative website. Laura? Laura, are you able to unmute? Are you able to unmute her, Joan? Because I don't think I can.
What I can do. Okay, I'm sorry, Laura. Oh, this is Laura Benton. Is that Laura? Is it Laura Beck who's?
Yes, you got it.
Hey there, Mel.
Hello, Miss Laura.
Doing an awesome job. I love this topic. You do it so well. I just thought about something, just connecting some dots, just a thought. What's powerful too with the domains of well-being as it relates to the elimination of ageism and ableism is that when we take the time to sink into exploring those domains for an individual, it just gives us an opportunity to look at every aspect of their humanity, and it then becomes impossible, right? To fall into the habit of trying to stick someone in a box or decide who they are before you really know anything of any depth or any substance about them. So I just, hadn't really put it together like that before, but thought that might be a fun thing to think about.
Thank you, Laura. Great way to connect dots is right. And I love that. Thank you.
Mel, it's Penny. I have a question for you.
Sure, Penny.
Wonderful job.
Thank you.
I think we're seeing so much about ageism, different initiatives that are happening. We know, within all of our organizations, whether it be Pioneer Network or Eden and all the other great organizations out there, but we're not hearing as much about ableism. And
I agree.
Just wondered, do you know of any of more of the national initiatives happening around ableism? Or is this something that, you know, all of our organizations are going to need to promote awareness about?
And I do think that, Penny, I don't know why I need my glasses to talk, but apparently I do because I reached for them. So it must be an ableist thing, right? I don't know of any initiatives that are nationwide for ableism, again, as it pertains to older people, because ADA has lots of things going on, but I think it stops when people are at a point or an age where they are receiving support services. It seems like that goes away, and we don't see that anymore. Maybe because we make it akin to aging, and we assume that these things happen because of aging, which is not true. I mean, yes, our bodies change over time, but it doesn't mean we'll all wind up in wheelchairs or on walkers or have vision loss or hearing loss or anything. So I don't know, and I do believe that all of us in this world need to be talking as much about ableism as we are about ageism. And again, I credit the Eden Alternative because that's where I first learned about it. Never thought of it before, never heard of it before, but it's something that, in fact, my dear friend Kim McCrae and I did a session last year, 2 years ago at Pioneer on the stigma of being other, which was the different isms that come as we're aging. And we talked a lot about ableism in that one as well. But somebody else asked, can we speak a little more to ableism and that it's a new term? So I see what you're saying, Penny. This is new. This is new for all of us. But once we're made aware, right, then it's up to us to bring this forward. So ableism, again, is that prejudice against someone due to their different abilities.
And Mel, this is Joan. Don't you think that perhaps, you know, one of the things for those of us who work in the field of long-term care, unfortunately, we have created situations that resulted in ableism for our elders. The fact that we have felt that we have to do for them instead of supporting abilities for people to do for themselves. The fact that you move into a nursing home and everything is so far away from you that all of a sudden you have to have a wheelchair in order to get from one place to another. So all of a sudden the issues of ableism become a part of your life that maybe they didn't need to be had we been able to support you and recognize your abilities and enhance those, help you enhance those abilities rather than support what became a disability for you.
Exactly. It's totally, again, it's the same thing we've talked about whenever we talk about person-centered and person-directed care, right? That we've come into these broken systems. It's not anything actually we've created. It's what the system we walked into. And Joan, I am seeing a lot of chat come in. People have comments and cannot unmute. So, well, a couple more people. So,
and I apologize because I am not seeing the chat box.
That's okay. That's okay. And yes, anyone can jump in. Please do.
Laura, I unmuted you. You had your hand up.
Oh, okay. If it's okay to just add something else. I think it's really great that, you know, Penny pointed out that the conversations about ableism aren't as prevalent, especially in our field. And one of the things that's happening that feels really important right now that has not so much been the case, and that's why Mel bringing up the double whammy conversation today is so important, is that when you talk to a lot of people who don't run around in the circles that we do, they equate dementia with being older in age. They don't appreciate living with dementia as a matter of changing abilities. And it's only recently become more of a conversation in the circles that are relevant to the American Disabilities Act that living with dementia is being recognized more as a change in ability. And at the Eden Alternative, we have always taught that living with dementia is sometimes the target of ableism because you know, we've always wanted to like separate that out so people don't get confused, that you can be of any age, obviously, and live with dementia. But as the ADA becomes more a part of this conversation and dementia is recognized as being, you know, equated with that, the good thing about that is then we start thinking about accommodation, just like we do with other individuals who live with different abilities. And that is an opportunity to even the playing field and create more inclusivity. So that's why I love that people are interested in kicking up this conversation about ableism, because it does normalize that conversation more and put it more center stage. But as long as we keep throwing it in the bin with, oh, that's about being older, you know, those two issues have different needs. So we can't respond to them in the way that is most beneficial when we throw them in the same bin. So enough said.
Thank you, Laura. And speaking of inclusivity, I'll just throw a plug. If anyone was able to read Al Power's blog today, that Pioneer shared it actually, on his manifesto and talking about inclusivity. Wow, that'll knock your socks off. So.
And Kathy Leelick, you had your hand up and you
Yes.
are unmuted, so please share.
Okay. Can you hear me, everybody? Okay, great.
Yes.
Mel, when I think about ableism, I think about elders' own kind of ableism, meaning people who don't want to use a cane, they don't want to use a walker, don't want to use a wheelchair, you know, if they shouldn't need it. They're worried about what other people will think. And it actually often does happen. I remember my mother had a walker. She was using a walker and went to a family event, extended family. And one of the extended family members said, an older person too, said, what do you need that thing for? A very negative connotation. So I'm just thinking about the ableism that's internalized in elders as well. And that I'm hoping, I think about myself that when and if I need those things, that I won't resist them. Because what happens is if you don't use it, you can fall more, and then you have to use it. And so many negative things can happen if you don't take advantage of the assistive devices that are out there.
Right, Kathy, and I think you bring up a great point, and this is where education comes in, right? Because we have talked about, or I've heard conversations before about the fact of the segregated dining, for example, that people let's say you're at a CCRC, the people in independent do not want to see wheelchairs and walkers coming in there. What is that?
Right.
That's fear, right? So we know education's the antidote to fear. So we need to be educating elders as well as everyone else that, you know, it doesn't mean you're less than, it doesn't mean you're different than, it means you have an assistive device, you know, and take away the negative connotation. It's like the word behavior, right? And the word itself has no negative or positive when we're using it in other circumstances, but when we talk about a person living with dementia and we talk about a behavior, it's certainly a negative connotation. We need to take that away. We need to take away the negative connotation of using a walker or a wheelchair or any of these things. The more we bring things into the mainstream of seeing them and recognizing that they're part of life, they could be part of your life, and it's not a terrible thing. The more we educate, the better people will accept, I think.
I agree with you, Mel. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Mel, I'm not seeing any more chats and I'm not seeing any more hands up right now.
Nor am I. But I know this is new, and I appreciate the person who said this is new for me, ableism. It is. I hope it gets as much mainstream as ageism is starting to get. I think that it's up to us in this field, the pioneers, the Edens, all of us, to bring this message forward and to talk about it and to be real about it.
Absolutely. And I totally agree with you, Mel, and I so appreciate your sharing with us and your leading us in this conversation today. I hope it has been a meaningful conversation for all of you. And let me share a little bit of what's next. This is being recorded, so we will have available to all of you. You'll receive 2 emails. You'll receive one right after you'll receive a message right after the webinar where we would really like your feedback on how we did. And I want to add a little something that's not on the evaluation, but thank you so much for helping us to learn and grow. Mel and I have done a lot of growing today prior to the webinar and as we've been on it, and I've learned a few new things about Zoom now, and so hopefully we'll take advantage of those new things we learned and do even better in the future. But let us know how we're doing, how you enjoy the webinar series, and what you're going to maybe be able to do with this information to share and continue this conversation within your settings. And then you're also going to get an email in about 24 hours, and it will have a copy of the recording of this as well as the handouts that Mel used, and a certificate of completion, so that if that is beneficial to you, to have that certificate to share with whomever you want, to let them know that you're learning and growing too. We encourage you to do that. And then I just wanted to share with you a little bit, whoops, there's more questions, about what's coming next. So this series will continue. We have 2 more webinars in this series. The next one will be on Tuesday, June 25th. Notice we're being a little unorthodox with our dates and times, not our times, but with our dates on this webinar, but this should be a great one. How anti-ageism activists are changing the culture of aging, and that's going to be an interview with Ashton Applewhite, who is the author of This Chair Rocks. And then in July, in August, the last of this series, which we don't have it on there, is going to be presented by Jill Vitale-Awesome, who is the president and CEO of the Eden Alternative, and Jill is going to talk about a cruel irony, ageism and the ableism in senior living environments. So how is it impacting our worlds in a very, very real way? And then we also invite you to join with us in our other webinar series, which is the Growing Person-Centeredness. And the next webinar in that series will be on May 23rd, and it will feature Sam Fazio and Doug Pace from the National Alzheimer's Association. The topic will be person-centered dementia care. First came the recommendations, now let's explore the outcomes. So we think that'll be a very exciting and a very outcome-driven conversation for us to have. And then certainly just I have to put in a little plug as we're looking at ageism and ableism and fighting those 2 things in our setting. Certainly the Community Commitment Award, seeing and hearing stories of elders who are making a difference, not only for themselves, providing meaning and purpose in their own lives, but making a difference for those in a greater community, and certainly sharing with all of us the abilities, the capabilities, the promise that they have. So we are in the last couple of days of our Community Commitment Award open applications. They close on Friday. So if you know of an organization doing some phenomenal things with their elders, please, if you're not sure if it qualifies, give me a call, pop me an email, and I'd be happy to talk with you about it. And of course, we hope to see you in Louisville. And if you join us there, you will get a chance to see Mel, who's actually participating as a guide in 2 different sessions, one of them out of the box and ahead of the curve with Kim McCrae, who I know is listening in on this webinar as well, and also a full intensive on ageism, exploring the connection to who we are and the work we do, which should be a very exciting intensive. So we hope that you're able to join us in Louisville as well for that and continue to connect with the network. We appreciate everything we hear from you, and we are here to help. That's what it's all about, relationships. Mel, any final words?
I had to unmute. No, thank you everybody who is here and who participated in the discussion. It's by talking together that we can make a difference, really. So thank you. And we learn from each other. So thanks.
Thank you all. We'll see you next time.
Bye.